Good morning, guys. Now, today we're going to talk about the Sumerians. The Sumerians was a very important civilization that was of the first civilizations that we know in the world. Now, over here I have two videos. We're gonna play this one, the Sumerians, the first great civilization, and the other one is talks about the leader who ruled in those years in Sumeria, in that area of Sumerians. Okay, now let's begin with this one first, and then we watch the other one.
The history of the human race is filled with civilizations and empires, but that wasn't always the case. At the end of the Neolithic period, a great share of people still had a semi-nomadic lifestyle, wandering from one region to another in search of hunting and other food sources. With the dominance of agriculture and the domestication of animals, human beings began to create ever larger settlements, which allowed a considerable spike in population numbers. Around the year 4000 BC, some tribes started to settle in the south of ancient Mesopotamia, a region between Iraq, Iran, and Syria, bathed by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. These tribes gave birth to what is probably the most important civilization in history, the Sumerians. The Sumerian civilization was fascinating, responsible for most of the breakthroughs during the Bronze Age. The Sumerians were pioneers in the drainage of swamps and irrigation system for crops. They possessed an intricate and properly developed language, which facilitated trade and the exchange of knowledge with other peoples. The Sumerians also stood out for their artistic ability, developing fine crafts and having great skill as artisans, marble and wood sculpting, and creating beautiful bronze sculptures. And perhaps most importantly, they came up with the idea of writing. The Sumerians developed the cuneiform writing, with small, wedge-shaped objects and clay tablets to engrave the symbols. Cuneiform writing was sophisticated for that time. Using it, the Sumerians recorded the important events, even crafting poems and law codes. The texts written by the Sumerians ranged from mathematical calculations to the study of astronomy and medicine. Later, the cuneiform writing was adopted by other peoples such as the Babylonians, Hittites, and Assyrians. The Sumerians are also known for the improvement of tools such as hammers, mattocks, and picks, in addition to bronze weapons with an impressive quality for that period. The Sumerians worshipped many different gods, who were called Anunnaki, a group of deities responsible for the creation of humanity. These were associated with natural disasters, such as floods and earthquakes, as a form of punishment to humans for their sins. To the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were heavenly beings who came to Earth in search of gold, and to facilitate the mining of the precious metal, they gave birth to the human race. The fact that the Sumerians were considered the inventors of astronomy and studied the movement of the planets in the solar system fueled the belief in modern times that the gods Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings who visited our world long ago and taught the early peoples how to grow food and build larger cities. The Sumerians founded the cities of Kish, Nippur, Uruk, Eridu, Lagash, and Ur, which became important cultural and commercial hubs in the region. But these cities did not belong to a single kingdom. Each had its autonomy as city-states, being ruled by its kings and maintaining its cultural traits. The city of Ur was particularly important among the Sumerian cities as an important center of trade in the region, with several religious temples, such as the famous Great Ziggurat of Ur. The Sumerian kings often maintained peace, but sometimes they fought wars for the domination of new territories. The wealth of the Sumerians began to incite the ambition of other neighboring peoples, such as the Elamites and Amorites, who constantly attacked to plunder the Sumerian cities. These conflicts gave rise to the first written war in history. The war took place in 2700 BC between the Sumerians and the kingdom of the Elamites. The Sumerian king of the city of Kish was called Enme-Baragesi. He led a Sumerian contingent against the kingdom of the Elamites. Back then, combat tactics could already make all the difference between victory or defeat. The Sumerians had trained and relatively disciplined soldiers who fought in shield wall formations when needed. Probably the most fearsome weapon of the time was the war chariots, with 2 axles and pulled by 4 animals, horses, or donkeys. It is easy to imagine that the number of casualties was high during these battles. There was little protection, and the combat was fought in close proximity. Also, there were carriages with units shooting darts, spears, and trying to run over the less fortunate soldiers. The Sumerians won the battle, and recorded on a clay tablet, "We continue to plunder the weapons of the Elamites." Over time, other peoples of Mesopotamia developed large cities and increasingly bigger and well-trained armies. The Sumerian civilization did not resist the military advance of several kingdoms and ended up succumbing. It is believed that climate change also caused a major drought in the region, which contributed to the decline and disappearance of the Sumerian culture. Albeit their tragic end, the Sumerians played a key role in the cultural and social development of the peoples of Mesopotamia. These new kingdoms made good use of the Sumerian legacy, and thanks to their heritage, their names will be forever in history.
Okay, now let's watch the other one. Let's stop right here. Now this one, Sargon.
During the late 24th century BC, ancient Mesopotamia underwent a period of continual war over control of the region. Credited with being the first emperor in recorded history, Sargon of Akkad successfully united multiple Sumerian city-states and conquered all of Mesopotamia to form the Akkadian Empire. As a tribute to the lasting impact of his life and legacy, future generations refer to him as Sargon the Great. Sargon was born an illegitimate son to a priestess of the Sumerian goddess of love and an unknown father who lived in the small village of Azupiranu. His mother sent him down the Euphrates River in a basket, where he was found by a man named Aki, who worked as a gardener for the king of Kish, Urzababa. Aki adopted Sargon as his own, and Sargon rose through the ranks to become the king's cupbearer. The cupbearer was an especially prestigious position that required the absolute trust of the king, due to the high frequency of poisonings at the time. During this period, Lugarzagezi, who was the king of Umma, led an army to conquer the city-states of Sumer, where he eventually marched on Sargon's home of Kish. King Urzababa sent Sargon to deliver an offer of peace. However, Lugarzagezi refused and instead invited Sargon to join him on his conquest. Sargon agreed, and together they overthrew the city of Kish and forced Urzababa into hiding. After several years, the relationship between Sargon and Lugarzagezi deteriorated. According to legend, it may have involved Sargon having an affair with Lugarzagezi's wife. In any case, they quickly became enemies and marched towards each other in battle. After a decisive victory over Lugarzagezi, Sargon paraded him through the streets in chains before torturing and executing him. Sargon appointed himself the new king of Kish and continued his predecessor's conquest of Sumer. Lugarzagezi had already united the kingdom in large part, creating a substantial advantage for Sargon. After capturing the rest of Sumer, he moved on to conquer the lands of Assyria and Elam. In time, Sargon had most of the Fertile Crescent under his dominion and achieved what no previous king ever had. Sargon employed new military tactics such as the phalanx formation, which was a tightly formed group of soldiers equipped with spears and massive shields. The phalanx formation became an essential tactic used by Alexander the Great during his military conquests nearly 2,000 years later. Sargon also leveraged new inventions, such as the composite bow, to gain a significant advantage over his enemies on the battlefield. The composite bow was made of wood, horn, and sinew. It could shoot twice as far as a traditional bow and had 3 times its power. These military advancements helped Sargon win a total of 34 battles throughout his life. He founded the city of Akkad, establishing it as the capital of his empire. He also founded the city of Babylon, which developed into a dominant force 6 centuries later during the reign of Hammurabi. In forming his new empire, Sargon assigned his most trusted men to high-ranking positions, appointing them as governors in his administration, spanning over 65 cities. He further consolidated his power by strategically appointing his daughter, Enheduanna, as the high priestess of the god of wisdom, one of the most prominent religious positions of the time. This upper hand allowed Sargon to exert much greater influence over his empire and proved to be a key factor in maintaining his grip on power. During his reign, Sargon claimed to have conquered the four corners of the universe, stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. The Akkadian Empire developed the world's first postal service and made the most efficient use of bureaucracy on a massive scale in history. The empire also dramatically improved Mesopotamia's infrastructure with the construction of paved roads and irrigation systems. Sargon maintained a full-time army of 5,400 men in the city of Akkad, affording him a considerable advantage compared to previous kingdoms. However, despite these advances, the people still rebelled, requiring Sargon to suppress numerous uprisings. According to the Sumerian king list, Sargon ruled for 56 years and died of natural causes in 2279 BC. Sargon's son, Rimush, inherited his throne and ruled for 9 years until his own death, when he was succeeded by his brother, Manishtushu. The Akkadian Empire ruled for another century, until the Gutian conquest of Sumer around 2150 BC. Stories of Sargon's greatness were widely circulated in Assyrian and Babylonian texts, which quickly cemented his status as a legend. Through relentless ambition, Sargon conquered all of Mesopotamia and forged the world's first empire. Consider liking, subscribing, and clicking the bell icon below.
Okay, you see, he was one of the first empires in the world. Now let's go to the PowerPoint that I have for you. It's 336. We have 9 minutes to discuss this. Let's begin. Okay, the Sumerians, a very important civilization, one of the most. Why? Because they brought different inventions to the world, a lot of inventions, and we'll discuss during this chapter. The main idea is Sumerians created the world's first advanced society. In southern Mesopotamia, remember, Mesopotamia is the area between two rivers, okay, the Tigris and the Euphrates. The people known as the Sumerians developed the world's first civilization. By the year 3000 BC, several 100,000 Sumerians had settled in Mesopotamia in a land they called Sumer. I think over here, this area was called Sumer. Okay, this area. These are the two rivers, okay? Now let's go back. There they create an advanced society. Now, the first city in Sumer had about 10,000 residents. City-states in Sumer competed against one another to gain and more farmland. So they wanted to dominate certain areas, and they need the lands. Why? In order to raise their crops. Okay. City-states build up strong armies to fight for control of the farmland. Sumerians also built strong, thick walls around their cities to protect, for protection. Now, some city-states such as Mary on the Euphrates River became important center of trade. Why? Because they trade different goods. Through trades, the city-states of Sumer became an important part of the region's economy. A city-state known as Kish had become quite powerful. Over the next 1,000 years, the city-states of Uruk and Ur fought for dominance. Let me see, where are the Uruk? Over here is this is the city of Uruk and Ur. They tried to fight in order to dominate this area. Okay, but this Sargon is the one that we mentioned. He came in the picture right now. Race of Akkadian Empire. Another society developed along the Tigris and Euphrates. It was created by the Akkadians. They lived just north of Sumer, but they were not Sumerians. They didn't speak the same language. In this area, the Sumer is the Sumer here. So in this area, they lived the Akkadians. Akkadians, okay? Let's move on. Now over here it says, that peace was broke. The peace was broken in 2300 BC when a leader named Sargon, this is Sargon over here, this is Sargon over here, sought to extend Akkadians' territory. He wanted to expand his territory, and he has this army in order to fight and try to expand their territories. The Akkadian ruler Sargon, this one that is over here, I think this is a camel. He's riding a camel. Okay. Akkadian ruler Sargon was the first to have a permanent army. So they have an army. I think in the film, the picture, in the YouTube picture that I project, it was he has like 4,000 something soldiers, permanent soldiers. Okay. Now this image shows the battle between Akkadian soldiers and their enemies. Sargon soldiers defeated all the city-states of Sumer. Now Sargon established in the world's first empire. Now he created this, like, was the first empire. Why? Because he dominated all this area from the Mediterranean until the Persian Gulf. Okay, this is the Persian. So this area, remember how it was named? The Crescent Fertiles, this area. He dominates all this area. On land, different territories and people under single ruler. The Akkadian Empire stretched from Persian Gulf to Mediterranean Sea. Sargon was emperor or ruler of his empire for more than 50 years, más de 50 años. Sin embargo, however, the empire lasted only a century after his death. After he died, he lasted 100 years more. Eventually, however, the Sumerian city-state of Ur rebuilt its strength and conquered the rest of Mesopotamia. The Sumerians once again became the most powerful city of the regions. Religion, shape, and society. Religions play a main role in Sumerian society. Now, the Sumerians, they were polytheism. What is the meaning of the word polytheism? That they believe in different gods, like it says, and worship many gods, different gods. Okay. Among the gods they worship were Enlil, the lord of the air, Inanna, the goddess of love and war. The sun and the moon were represented by the gods of Utu. Utu was the sun, and the moon was the Nanana. Enki was the lord of wisdom and also the god of the fresh water. The Sumerians believed that their gods had enormous power. Gods could bring a good harvest. A good harvest significa una buena cosecha, o a disastrous flood, o una inundación desastrosa de esos ríos que se inundan. Okay. They couldn't bring illness, podían traer enfermedades, or they could bring good health, buena salud, o riquezas. Los dioses, por eso que ellos adoraban a esos dioses. Okay. Aquí vemos, aquí hay un chart donde it shows different kind of ghosts that they worship. Okay. Over here, the gods Anu is the god of heaven, Enki, the god of wisdom, Enlil, the god of air, Ereshkigal, the goddess, is the goddess of the underworld. Es la diosa del infierno, del inframundo. And Nergal is the god of the underworld. Es el dios varón. Y esta es la diosa.
El rey de los muertos, dígale. El rey de los muertos. Así le dice nada.
¿Cómo?
Póngale el rey de los muertos, es mejor.
¿Cómo dice? No te entendí.
Que le ponga el... Ay, olvidé.
Teacher,
Sí, dígame.
muchos dioses,
¿De qué?
muchos dioses, adoraban a bastantes dioses.
Oh, yeah, well, polytheism. Over here it says the Sumerians practiced polytheism. Poly means muchos. Theism, dioses. Ellos adoraban muchos dioses y aquí yo los mencioné. Y aquí en esta gráfica, it shows all the different gods they worship. Okay, guys? Now falta un minuto para que se acabe la clase. Así que, chicos, that was it.